was putting in a few hours. I had to pick up a friend later in the evening at around 8 o'clock. So I thought I needed to get some work done. So I'm at my desk and I'm looking out these big windows that we had, and I kept glancing at this light. And at the time it was still daytime. It just kept catching my eye. I'm like, what is that light up there? It's not the sun. It's really low. It looks like it's over Hoag Hospital. It just caught my attention and I was really intrigued by it. So left work, and as I'm driving down Newport Boulevard, the light's there and it's getting bigger. It's starting to get dark now, and the light is now got me completely captivated. And all of a sudden, it would get brighter, and then it would all of a sudden shrink very slowly and disappear. I'm looking at this going, what's going on? And then before I could even think, it would appear over here and do the same thing. And it was doing this thing. It was happening over and over again. So now the whole thing I want to do in my mind is I got to show my friend who's going to be out like 5 minutes. So 8 o'clock rolls around. It's getting darker. They let her out. She comes out. And I'm like, hey, check this out. It's gone. Light's gone. I go, wait, just wait. So I'm sitting there. I'm waiting. I'm like, this thing's got to come back. It's going to come back. It doesn't come back. We may have gone a half a mile or a mile. She looks over. I don't see anything. She looks over and her hand flies across me and she goes, oh my God. I look out the passenger window and I see a massive spaceship. I just have to say it. You know, I've said it time and time again. I see this thing coming, and it was the biggest, craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And I started freaking out. I started going, like, oh my God, pull the truck over. Get out of the truck. It's dark at this time, so it must have been 8:20, 8:30. And this thing's coming at us, and it's just massive. And we're watching it, and I can't express like the feelings that I had. It was so overwhelming. There's no words to describe what you feel when you see something like this. It's insane. It's insanity. But this thing's coming. And what I remember is, as it was getting closer to us, it was moving in a really weird way. It was silent. There was no sound whatsoever at all. And it was moving as if it was in water. So it was moving very slowly. It was coming. And I knew it was going to come over us, but it was still silent. When it was directly over us, I said, what are you? Who are you? What is this? And I remember right when I said that, it stopped and it started to go backwards. The minute it went backwards, the fear that came over me was, I've never felt anything like that in my life. At the same time that happened, I looked over and you said, we got to get out of here. And I could see 3 more of these ships coming in the distance, far away, but they were coming. We bolted out of there. I didn't know whether to go left. We didn't know whether to go right. We were frantic, completely hysterical. That light that I'd seen earlier, that big, I'd call it like a mini sunlight, they were everywhere. I mean, there must have been 20 or 30 of them as far as I could see, not towards the ocean, but inland. And as she's driving the car, I'm looking at these things and I'm going, I was just like, this is a total invasion. We're totally under attack. This is alien, like armada of aliens coming at us. And I was for sure that's what was going down. I catch a glimpse to my right, and there are like 3 flying saucers to my right, maybe 40 feet above the car, so close that I could see again exactly what they looked like. They were discs. They were the typical, UFO saucers, kinda. They were disc-shaped. They were in a formation. They were right above me. They were cruising along with us, a little bit ahead of us. So again, I'm thinking, we're under attack. Here's another type of ship that's going to be causing some serious problems here soon. And then they jettison it off. gone. Once again, all I see are the sunlight orbs everywhere. And if you're in Huntington, Newport area, there's a couple miles out, I guess, you'll see oil rigs. And there are these cylinders, and they were massive. And they put off a brilliant fluorescent light. And they were huge. And they were sitting above, directly on top, floating above one of the oil rigs. And they were kind of in a Black Flag logo pattern. I remember feeling like somebody else needs to see this. So I guess to validate what we're going through and what we're seeing. And I remember having her pull over in the gas station area, and I remember getting out of the car, and I tried to compose myself because I didn't want to freak anybody out. I see this guy on the other side of the pumps, and he's standing, facing in and out, and he's just standing there looking at them. And they're everywhere. Finally, this guy sees what I see. This is incredible. This is so weird, but it plays into a lot of what happened later, I think. I walked up to the guy. He didn't move. He was just standing there. And I go, "What's going on?" And he's like, he didn't even look at me, he goes, "They're here all the time." And I was like, it made me feel better. And then he just frankly says, "They don't get here like you think they get here." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Well, they get here through wormholes. They come through like wormholes to get here." And I'm thinking, okay, I'm getting some kind of answers. The guy has seen these before, obviously. I'm feeling kind of better, but not really. I was in shock like I had never been before in my life, for sure. In this area, it's busy. It's right by the freeway, and you've got a lot of people pumping gas. And I see a cop car, and at the time I'm approaching him, one of these light balls is coming directly towards us. It was such a great opportunity because all the guy had to do was turn to his left and go like that, and he would have seen exactly what I was talking about. And I said, "Officer, I'm a professional. I've got 3 kids. I'm a salesman. Just picked up a friend in Newport Beach, and we just encountered a bunch of ships in the sky. I know this sounds crazy. I've never seen before, and there's actually one just over your shoulder. I'm not going to get close to your car, but if you could just take a look and let me know what's going on, I really appreciate it." He says to me, he wasn't going to look to the left and up. He wasn't even going to look up at all. All he said was, "Come here and get a little closer." He goes, "I want you to take your friend, calm down, and you need to go home." It destroyed me. You're law enforcement. You're here to protect, serve. I've got a situation. It might sound crazy, but the least you could do is look up in the sky. And you're not even going to do that. You're not even going to address anything. I kind of came at him again. And the second time he responded, he said, "Both of you come here." He goes, "I don't want you talking about this anymore. I want you to get in your car now and go home right now, or I'm going to have somebody come out here and take you." That was horrible. We drove to her house, which is a couple miles away. We stood outside and I watched these things for a while. I watched these things for a while.
In my home, paranormal activity was discussed. It was okay to discuss it. We, if something was moving or you heard something or the lights were being tinkered with, right? We were talking about ghosts. When I was 12 years old, I had my first psychic attacks. A psychic attack is defined as getting knowledge about something before it actually happens. And that happened for me in dreams. And I always say that when you're dreaming, when you're sleeping, the middle of the night, you're very vulnerable to spiritual attacks because you're coming in and out of these sleep stages, making you spiritually vulnerable. So Mom was a hairdresser and she would go to the beauty supply, and the woman who worked at the beauty supply happened to be a tarot card reader. So Mom at this point was working in our home. She had her little beauty parlor in our home. And the tarot card reader came to do this group reading. Mom's clients came, and Mom let us participate in these readings. She let us each get our own reading. And it was 13-year-old stuff that this woman was telling me. You know, your best friend, you know, went on a trip and brought you back a piece of jewelry, and that's just enough. My best friend had gone to Ireland, and she came back with a beautiful piece of jewelry for me. And I was like, whoa, how does this woman know these things? How do these cards, like, no, this is an absolute stranger. How could this be? And that question just left me wanting more. I started seeking out other types of psychics. So clairvoyance, of course, they're ready to go at the mall. Who is lighting candles? Who will say a spell? Who will do this? Who will do that? I was participating in all of this. I was then getting my astrology charts done. I was getting numerology charts done. And I'd be sitting with these people an hour and a half, 2 hours, going through the whole thing. So at this time, I was doing readings, basically friends, family. Hey, I just meet you. I just received some information. I'm a psychic. Can I share it with you? 9 times out of 10, or should I really say it was probably more like 10 times out of 10? The answer was yes, because people are so intrigued, just as intrigued as I was. This was the first psychic medium attack through a dream. And there was a young man in the dream who I knew to be deceased in the dream. Didn't know this guy from Adam, didn't know if this was none of it, but in the dream I knew that this person was dead. And I could see what he looked like, and I could see how he died. And then what I saw in the dream was my ex. He came one day and I said, hey, listen, I got to share this with you. I had this dream. I don't know what it means, maybe nothing, whatever, I got to talk. And he goes, I have to talk to you. He goes, I can't even believe this. He said, it was like her brother's friend or something. That's exactly what he looked like. That's exactly how old he was. That's exactly how he died. So he says to me, so what's his name?
Michael.
And it was like downloaded immediately, Michael, that's his name. And he was like, yeah, that's his name. And I'm like, so we're both like, what's happening? So of course, what do? I go to the psychic medium, because that's where I go for everything. And she starts telling me that at some point in the reading that I'm a medium and that the dead are trying to contact me, and this is a gift from God. And I need to use it to help people to connect with their departed loved ones. And of course, here I am. Well, why would you not accept your gift from God? I've got to help people.
My grandfather was a spiritist. He actually performed seances, channeling, and he believed that the spirit of the person stays on earth and guides the descendants. And my mother, she, at the age of 12, prayed to receive Christ into her heart, so the two were diametrically opposed to each other. And so much estranged that she didn't even have pictures of him around the house at all. But he made a promise to her that he would visit her children. And as it turns out, they saw visions of my grandfather appearing to them on a number of occasions. And I got wind of that when I was about 11 years old. And I thought it would really be intriguing, really be cool at the time if my grandfather would, guide me along, since he was with my aunts and he was with my 2 other sisters. And I thought, well, why not me? As it happened, it was one night during a dream, this man appeared before me. He asked me, did I want his help? Well, I woke up, but I saw him vividly. And I was in the kitchen with my mother, and I told her about this dream of this man that I saw. Now, mind you, I never saw him before in my life. I never saw any pictures. My mother never had any pictures of him. But she did have one picture that she kept in her chest of drawers. And so I was describing what he was wearing, what he looked like, everything. And she kind of turned white as a ghost and then got up and went to her dresser, opened up the drawer, pulled out this picture and showed it to me. And I said, "That's him." And she said, "That's your grandfather." And I had described everything down to exactly what he was wearing. And when she left to go put the picture away, I said out loud there at the kitchen table, I said, "Grandfather, if that was you, yes, I do want you to help me. Please be with me." Before that, I was pretty much of a shy, introverted kid. I didn't, I kind of stayed to myself. From that point on, suddenly I had this bolt of confidence. I started making friends. I was doing really well, and just felt like he was with me, and he was guiding me.
It all started back when I was taking care of my grandmother. My grandfather had already died prior to this. So while we were living there, we kept having things that would happen. We would hear footsteps in the middle of the night when no one else was up. We would hear my grandmother's music box turn on by itself. We would hear noises in the middle of the night, like someone was up in the kitchen, maybe preparing a meal. We would sometimes get up and there would be things out, things were moved. And one night we were laying there asleep and I was woke up by the noise again. And the noise continued and I had not opened my eyes yet. I was afraid. I wanted to look to see what it was, but I was afraid at the same time. Finally, I got up the courage and I heard the noise again. I opened my eyes and I looked over and I see the kitchen chair move across the floor. My husband got up wanting to see what was going on. I was all upset and I was saying, "I want to move, And all of a sudden my husband's, talked to me and he said, "Dana, it's probably just your grandfather because whatever it is, it hasn't tried to harm us." And I thought about it and I'm like, gosh, he's probably right. Maybe it is just my grandpa. I started to have questions about the afterlife. So I thought, well, what better way to find out but to ask the spirits themselves? I started going to the local graveyards, and I also brought my children with me. We would go out ghost hunting. We would take pictures. We would take recordings with looking for EVP, electronic voice phenomena recordings. The first night we went out, I did get an answer, and it was a spirit. It said that its name was Frank. Just so happened that the grave that I was standing at did say Frank on that grave. So I thought, okay, so it was more confirmation. And the more confirmation I got, the more I kept wanting to talk to the spirits and getting deeper into it.
So I remember getting to work in the morning. I sat there and cried. And I thought to myself, this is a freaking joke. The feeling I felt was everything I've known since April 2nd, 1972, being born on this planet meant nothing, and it was all a lie. It completely turned my world upside down. Yeah, big problems started after that. Big problems. Come to find out that the room I'm renting from these two elderly retired women, I come home and I tell this woman my story, and she says, "Oh, really?" She's just telling me what I experienced, blah, blah, blah. She's pulling out a newspaper. "Oh, my family, my younger sister was abducted. We were in Ohio," and she's bringing out all of this stuff that I had no idea was in this house. And she's telling me, "Oh, Jesus is an alien, blah, blah, blah." And I'm going, what's going on? Like, she's telling me all this stuff out of nowhere. And I'm like, oh my God, she's got the answers. So I went down a crazy, crazy rabbit hole. I had this overwhelming sense of, why did this happen to me? I must be special. I got to play a part in doing something. And they're going to come back and they're going to take me or something. There's so many thoughts that go through your mind. It's just so intense. I'm searching now on my spare time. Aliens, Greys, reptilians, the blue avians, the Pleiadians, the this, why they're coming here, Ascension, blah, blah, blah. I'm on every rabbit hole on the computer, every YouTube video. I've got to figure this out. I can figure this out. I'm going to figure it out because work and money and bills and the white picket fence and the boy and the girl, that doesn't matter anymore. None of that matters because that's not even real. That's how you feel. And I felt this call. I have to get away, the mountains, away, get into like nature, and I gotta see if this happens again. As creepy as it was, I wanted more of it. That sounds really weird. It was almost as if I was given more based upon my reaction and how much more I was seeking. That's when everything went south. And within weeks, I lose my job. And during that time, it was filming every night. It was searching, and it was having experiences. No matter where I was at night, especially if I was alone, I was seeing, I call them light ships because they're just balls of light, sometimes big, sometimes small, sometimes different colors, sometimes in shapes. I started noticing in the grain of the video, I was starting to see like what appeared to me to be like some kind of entities. I'm like, okay, this is really weird. I'm not seeing anything. I'm seeing the lights in real time, but I'm not seeing these entities until I go back and review on my phone the footage. These people kept coming into my life out of nowhere, talking to me, giving me information. It's as if these people knew what was going on with me without even saying anything. And it happened all the time. Things were happening in the house. Things were missing all the time. I mean, my keys are being missed, my rings, everything's disappearing in the house, which was really weird. Smells, odors in the place. This whole drive to figure out what the heck was going on was consuming me. This is too much. All this is just too much. And I said, show yourself to me. The minute I said, show me who you are, poof, 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 orbs right in front of my face. First time, real time, right there. My hand could touch them. I felt a calmness. They answered me, some type of answer right there. No, wasn't good. Wasn't good. Those orbs were not good. I was filming, and this craft was pretty big, probably the biggest thing I'd seen since the first encounter, and it was far away. But I was looking at it, and I was going to film it until it did something. I was waiting for it to do something. I start seeing these little balls of light coming out of the bottom of it. And I start to see these things getting closer, and they're coming my way. They came over the carport above my head, and that fear that had come over me at the beginning of all of this came back full circle, because it was, I just had this feeling like this is not good. And I remember stepping off the ledge and throwing the phone down and running as fast as I could to get away from these things. I just knew it wasn't right. Next thing I know, I'm in my truck, and she's like pounding on the window. What are you doing in here? What are you doing in here? Get out of the truck. And the car's unlocked the car. And I'm like, what are you talking about? What happened? I open up the car door, and I like fall out of the car. I felt like I had been beat up by like 8 guys, just kicked you know what out of me. I didn't know what was going on. She's like, it's 3:30 in the morning. And I must have been out there at 10. Gets me to the apartment, went to bed quick, woke up in the morning, went to step out and get on my feet. I fell to the ground, couldn't walk on my feet. It felt like somebody had tied me down, kicked me everywhere in my body, and then somehow damaged my feet. I don't get it, but we ended up having to go to the doctor, and I was like using like a crutch for like 3 to 4 months after this. But that next morning, I looked down at my left leg. There's a triangle, 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot. I look at my hands. It's like somebody scraped my hand, like a cheese grater on my hand or something. I'm like, what's going on here? I got bruising all over my body. I start to panic. Like, something did happen to me last night. Something physically, like somebody did something to me when I was not awake. I start panicking. Go out to the patio, get on the cell phone. Abduction images, all of them pop up. Triangle, check. Bruising, check. Scrapes, claws, my legs, check. Once the missing time and the physical came into play, I was like, okay, we're gonna go find professionals now. We have to find quote unquote professionals. And no one wanted to help me. Did not like to be left alone at all. However, I never stopped seeking. As all these experiences that I had, as threatening as they were, and how violent they were in my mind and my heart, and the fear that they brought to me, it was almost as if I seek them out even more. I know it sounds strange. I know it sounds weird. It was an obsession. It was a complete obsession to why, where, when, and what's next. And no matter what happened, I was continuing to press forward, even as the fear grew and grew and grew. And I'm alone. I'm on the couch watching TV. It was about midnight. Just looked over, and right on the glass, I could see 4 sets of eyes glowing. I knew I couldn't handle this, because I knew in my mind that they were coming in and they were going to have a conversation, or they were going to take me. One of the two I knew was going to happen. I got into a frantic state that I'd never experienced before. My heart was pounding so bad, and I remember being in the left corner of the couch, and I was pressing myself in and trying to think, if you go out through the door, you've got to there's nowhere to go except right, and then they're standing there, so you're going to pass them. You can't get out. There's no way. The way it was constructed, you can't get out. I started screaming, because I'm like, okay, if I scream loud enough, maybe they'll go away. And I'm loud. And I was screaming and crying, and I was like, I can't handle this. I can't let this happen. This has come too far. This is too much. This is the end. She's gone. They're taking me. Something's going down. It's big time. This is the end of something. And I was like, you're going to die tonight. You're dead.
I was at a 50, let's say, if we're going to use the 100 scale. So I went from 50 to 100 rapidly, with business cards in my hand, ready to do professional readings. And they were professional because, after all, you had to have an exchange of energy. So you had to be paid for your reading. They had that dollar bill. It didn't matter what you charged. That was the exchange of energy. People are going to psychic mediums because they've lost somebody and they want to make a connection. They're grieving. Sometimes it could be years later, but they just they want that connection with the deceased person. It's very hard to let people go. People go they're curious, they're lonely, they want information about their life and what to do. I'm a single mom, living at home, shopping at the Gap. You wouldn't have known I was a New Ager at all. I wouldn't have known I was a New Ager. I wouldn't have known I was a diviner. I just thought I was helping people with this gift. So I would start seeing twinkling lights around people's heads, and I knew something was about to happen. I knew that I was about to get information, or I would see, orbs and things like that. And then I would be able to say, okay, so-and-so, I'm a psychic medium. I'm about to get some information about you. Would you like to hear it? Yes. I mean, I would be getting ultrasounds and the ultrasound person, and I would just be like, I'm a psychic medium. I'm getting some information. Your brother passed away. He was in a boating accident. Da-da-da. Yep. And she validated all that information, and sure enough, became one of my clients. So my readings typically were, I would sit there with a notebook and a pen, because automatic writing was almost always a part of my readings, where I would start it might start with scribbling, but then I would start getting my signs and symbols. The rest of the reading would be downloaded information. So just the way that you can almost hear your own voice in your head when you're thinking about something. except that they're not your thoughts. Like imagine I'm sitting here and all of a sudden I start hearing Barbara, died in December, or that was your cousin, or that was your mother, female, like all these things start coming at you and you just start saying them, I start writing them. Sometimes I also would see a familiar spirit. And a familiar spirit is a demon masquerading, dressing up, pretending to be a person. Somebody that you loved, somebody that you would have known, somebody, or just somebody. So I could see a woman, let's say, I could describe the woman or I could describe the man. I was doing the readings for many years. This was my livelihood as well at that point. I'm hugging people at the end of the readings. I'm crying with them who lost their spouse, who lost their child. So as this was going on, I was going down the rabbit hole of destruction. More and more, these entities were around me all of the time. I was always scared. Going to these group readings, of course, it was at night, and I was by myself. So when I would drive home from these group readings, I wasn't going alone. Some of them were coming with me. So I'd be driving, and I would see familiar spirits. And as I would drive close, just dissipate. But they'd be in the car with me, too. Like in the rearview mirror, I'd see in the back seat. And I was afraid of that. So yeah, there I was again battling. Why is it okay when I think when I think that the entity is mom or dad and we're hugging and all this stuff, but now they're tormenting me. Now they're showing themselves here, and that's scary. So one of the group readings that I was hired to do, this time the people chose to have the 15-minute readings, the private 15-minute readings. And I didn't like the feeling I got immediately when I started channeling. It was just like this very cold, horrible feeling. And the information that I started receiving about this, so it was this guy, her uncle, and I'm seeing newspaper clippings and this very sinister, like all this sinister stuff and gunshot, all this stuff, right? Really reminded me of mafia type situation. And I start repeating what I'm hearing and what I'm getting, what's being downloaded, and she's looking at me with daggers in her eyes. So she said, yeah, that was my uncle, and he shot me, and he shot my brother. So I guess, it made the newspaper. But the information was information she understood and validated. But now she's looking at me as though I'm the uncle. I wanted to get out of there. I was like, she hated me. You could see the hatred in this woman's face. I was sick after that reading. I went home, I was sick for the better part of a week. As a New Ager, you believe that you can control the spiritual realm and that you have some sort of a power and that you can determine who's good, who's bad, and you can filter it out if you burn enough sage, if you say enough incantations, if you imagine enough white light around yourself. And so I did these things. Things were actually getting pretty disastrous in my life on a personal level. That went on for some time. The oppression became so intense.
I started going to church, ironically, at the same time that I had this spirit guide. And the spirit guide manipulated me in such a way where I thought that it worked together, that God had provided my grandfather to me to help me. Now, at the same time, I had another person. She is my sister by marriage. Now, she was into witchcraft. She was deep in the witchcraft and for evil purposes. She was not a good witch. She was into witchcraft. But she got wind of my ability of seeing my grandfather, and she wanted to use me with what she was doing. And she approached me when I was in the 8th grade about working with her. But the way she approached me is that she waited for a sign. She wanted to find out if it was time for us to get together. And as it turns out, at the time that I was having a dream, I was taking a nap, she was having a vision, and we were sharing the exact same vision of something that was taking place here in Florida. I was living up in Indiana at the time. We visualized this little boy drowning in a canal. And I woke up from the dream and I thought that was a strange dream. Well, my sister, she woke up from the vision and she called the house. She goes, well, I just had a dream that a little boy drowned in a canal. And I said, well, that's crazy, I did too. And we didn't know at the time, but precisely at that moment, a neighbor here in Florida was over at my sister's house, and their little boy got outside at the age of 2, drowned in the canal. And for her, that hammered it home that she and I were to work together. So she approached me saying I had a gift from God. So I started working with her on witchcraft. Well, everything started falling apart in my life. I was having nightmares. Mentally, I started getting depressed. At the same time all this was taking place, I had began having sleepwalking issues. I would go outside in my sleep. One evening, it was about 2:30 in the morning, I'm walking down my street in my pajamas. It's about 20 degrees outside in February, and I'm convinced that I needed to commit suicide. This voice is telling me to step out onto the highway and it will be over quick. Well, I did. I stepped out into the highway. Not a single vehicle, nothing. And my grandfather appeared to me again and said, "Do you want to just be with me? We will guide you." And I said, "Okay, yes, I'll do that." And as soon as I said, "Yes, I'll do that," I opened my eyes up and I was standing with my hand on the doorknob. I'd never gone outside. They created a vision within me that made me convinced that I went outside down the road to that highway. I never left the house. I began having anger issues, and I was a different person. My sister was dating this one man who was very, very, very violent, and I didn't want her to do it. So while she burnt candles to make him want her, I was burning candles to make him go away. She wanted to put a curse on whoever was interfering with what she was doing. And I went to her house, and she, in this particular instance, instead of having red candles out to do our normal thing, she had black candles, and the room was dark. And she called on demons and Satan to find the person who's interfering with her and destroy that person. She had no idea that it was me. And at that moment, that was the first time that I literally could see manifestations of eyes from behind her. And I could hear the snickering of these creatures. And I knew that I'd stepped in something and I was not protected. And that's when everything started falling apart. Now I have a stereo that's by the door, and the speakers came flying off the wall. Everything, the stereo itself pushed forward and was hanging off to the side. The lid came off, hit me on the back as I'm ducking. The speakers hit the floor. That is the first time I saw a true manifestation of physical objects moving around. Whatever was going on, it was getting stronger and stronger. Later, I got married. We were playing around and she was chasing me, I was chasing her, young couples, and she accidentally slammed the door on my hand. Now there's one thing that kept happening with me. Anytime I got angry, I would lose memory. I would evidently go into a rage. And the next thing I remember, I'm standing in the bathroom because I ran into the bathroom to get away from her. She closed the door. The next thing I remember, I'm standing there in the bathroom with the top of the toilet lid above my head, ready to slam it down. And I'm confused. I'm like, what happened? And the bathroom's a wreck. I walk out, I'm trying to find my wife. I don't know where she's at. She's in our bedroom, and I walk up to her and I said, what happened? And she said, there was more than one. I said, what do you mean more than one? She says, there was more than one. I go, one what? She goes, you were in that bathroom screaming. She says, but I heard other voices with you screaming. And I said, what's wrong with me? I don't know what's wrong. She goes, you need spiritual help. There's something going on.
We started going to homes that were haunted. Before this, I was just interested in the paranormal, looking for ghosts, but now I was helping families. Then I had a case. It was a man that was being physically assaulted by a spirit, and he went to the hospital, Before the investigation started, the young man left to go fishing. They were trying to give us room to do the investigation of the entire house. So while we were there, it got pretty late. We had a few things happen, nothing major. It was like a door opening and shutting while we were asking questions. And then when the man come in, he asked us, he says, well, if you let me go in with you, maybe something will happen, because whatever it is, it doesn't like me. Well, he started provoking the spirit, because at this point we were trying to get a reaction. Well, just suddenly, out of nowhere, we heard this loud bang. And it was so loud, it literally sounded like something crashed on the outside of the house or something. It was a loud smack and bang at the same time. Well, the man, instead of facing this way, he was now against the wall on the ground, and there was a big dent in the file cabinet where his head hit. We started yelling for the people on the front porch. They had the monitor set out there, watching on the monitors, and we started yelling for them to come in. They finally got the guy off the floor, and he started becoming combative. He was angry, he was upset, he was crying, and he started yelling for this thing to, come out, and he was just so angry. Well, come to find out, the reason it took them a few minutes to come in was when he was thrown into the wall, the grandmother was thrown off the front porch. This happened at the same time. Now, I must say that during our Dowsing Rod sessions that we were having earlier that night, we were getting answers that the spirit in the home was a little girl. That was an awful lot of strength coming from a little girl. So after this all happened, I started looking into mimicking. Mimicking is when a demonic spirit will pretend to be, like, for instance, a young child, or say a lady in white, something that's vulnerable, somebody that's vulnerable that your heart would appeal to, that you would, feel bad for. And I realized there was an awful lot of cases that seemed to be mimickers. And even in the ghost hunting community, they all believe that there is something called mimicking. But the problem is, we knew that they did it sometimes. We just didn't know that they do it all the time. There was a weekend that me and my daughter went to St. Augustine, Florida, and that's a place, a very big hotspot for the paranormal community. And we took a tour. We kind of left the group and we went and found a little secluded area, and we started doing an EVP session. We just started asking questions. All of a sudden, I was asking for the spirit to reveal itself to me in some way. Next thing you know, my husband calls me on my cell phone. And he said, "Dana, I don't know where you're at or what you're doing, but please stop." And he said, "Whatever you're doing, it's stirring stuff up here at the house." There was a ball. It was on the floor in front of him. And next thing you know, the ball just started rolling by itself. It went through the dining room, went through the kitchen, come out on the other side of the kitchen and across the hallway into the other doorway that come to the living room, come all the way through, and it stopped right in front of him. Then there was another instant. I had bought a book. It was about deliverance and prayers. It was an audio book, and I left it playing on my nightstand one night on my laptop. Well, my husband felt something come in the room, and it somehow it woke him up. He felt something. And then he heard the prayers being said on the laptop. He started to say the prayers along with the laptop. Next thing you know, as soon as he started to say the prayers, the fan in our room went flying across the room and hit the wall. And he woke me up. He was like, Dana, cut that off. And he said, whatever it is, it doesn't like that. But not realizing it was actually not just that it was playing, it was the fact that he was saying the prayers with it that made it do something. One night, we were in the living room, and my grandson was in my bedroom watching TV. And something told me to get up and check on him. He was sitting up on the end of the bed, looking like he was afraid of something. He jumps off the bed and he starts rubbing on the floor, and he said, I don't know, it went in the floor or something. Well, when he did that, I knew that whatever it was that was in our home was now starting to show itself to my grandson. So later I asked my grandson, do you remember what that looked like? And he said, yes. And I said, could you draw it for me? And this is exactly what he drew on that piece of paper. This doesn't look like a ghost. This looks like an alien. Now at this point, we started getting really desperate.
And as I'm just pressing and looking, and I was screaming and crying, and I said, Jesus, Jesus, God, Jesus, help me. I looked to my left, and in the kitchen was Jesus. He was not facing me. He was I could see his profile, but I went like this, and I'm like, oh my God. And I looked back, and he was still there. And I was like, Jesus. And I looked back to my right, the eyes and the figures at the door, gone. I looked back again, he's gone. Those things are gone. Everything for the accumulation of 2 years, that all the fear, all the damage, all the psychosis, all the experiences, all the high strangeness, everything that had happened, and all of that baggage was like somebody took a steel dragnet and just pulled it off my back, and I got on my knees and I started crying like a baby. I had no fear. I had zero fear. Everything was gone. I don't know how long I cried, but I prayed and prayed and prayed, and I just was like, that was Jesus. I know that was Jesus. I was like, Jesus, you saved me, you saved me, you saved me, you saved me, you saved me. And from that day, nothing ever happened again otherworldly. Nothing ever happened. I never saw anything again. I never got attacked.
The oppression became so intense, came to this moment where I call it the near destruction moment. The oppression was so thick, the oppression was so heavy that I cried out to Jesus Christ. In the blink of an eye, you could say knee jerk, whatever you want to say, end of yourself moment. He showed up. God was there. God was already at work, because there was a peace that came over me. I was actually really confused after that. I didn't want to be a psychic anymore, but I didn't know why. So now that's going, and it's like I'm in this spiritual vulnerability. That goes on. I end up going back to the readings, do some more readings, and then 10 months later, oh God, I had a date with my good friend Beth, who I met in the divination group that I went into years prior. We were very good friends. I used to read her family and friends. And in between the last time I had seen Beth and this time, Beth had been miraculously saved. I had no idea. And so she comes over for dinner and she starts talking about Jesus and the church that she's attending and all this stuff, right? So she invites me to go to this church, and I said no. Hey, I was good. Okay. 4 weeks later, I woke up on a Sunday and I had this feeling, if you will, to go to that church that day. I wanted to go. And this church was a non-denominational, Bible-based church, not like anything I had experienced ever. It was overwhelming. It was huge. The joy that you could see, the love that you could see. So I'm taking all of this in. These people have their arms up. I'm like, what are these people doing? And they're singing. But of course, I'm going to jump in with the crowd. I'm a team player, so I'm going to sing these songs with the people. And right when the lyric, Jesus saved me, I flashed back, quick flashback, to the moment I cried out his name, to the moment that was him that day, that was me, Jen. I saved you. I'm with you. I was instantly free. Delivered, free, because I put my full faith and trust in him. I fully believed that day. I heard the gospel that day, and I was indwelled with the Holy Spirit that day.
Well, as coincidence would have it, that Sunday there was a guest pastor that came to our church. And his subject matter that night was witchcraft, spiritual warfare, and the dangers of the New Age movement. It's like it was tailor-made for me. And he gave his message, and I literally hid behind a couple of congregants because I know he was looking at me. Did not want to be there. I felt uncomfortable. And at the end of the service, I went forward and I went up to him. And I said, your message meant a lot to me. He said, thank you, son. And I knew that wasn't what I wanted to say. Finally, it just blurted out. I said, I want to love God, but I can't. I remember the pastor getting with me and my wife's off to the side, and the first thing that he asked me, he says, is Jesus Lord? I said, yes, he is. He said, well, tell me that Jesus is Lord. Just tell me in your own words that Jesus Christ is Lord. And I go, well, Jesus is. He goes, say it. And I go, well, he is. He is. And I'm thinking to myself, why can't I say Jesus Christ is Lord? And he says, do you renounce everything that you've done in witchcraft? And I said, yes, I do. Right now, I renounce it. And one by one, as I asked for forgiveness and asked that I did away with anything that had to do with the Ouija board, had anything to do with the witchcraft practices I was doing, I was so ready to give my life to Christ. And at the end of it, he says, Don, is Jesus Lord? And I said, Pastor, Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. And everything changed that day, and my life was never the same. And we began praying for my sister. The following year, she prayed to receive Christ.
Now at this point, we started getting really desperate. I started hanging up rosary beads in over all my windows, my doorways. I had Bibles open in every room. I was collecting Bibles. I was buying them. I was putting them in my rooms with wide open. I was using it as a tangible weapon instead of applying it to my life like you were supposed to do. But the thing about it is, no matter what we used, it would always stop the spirits, but then they would come back. And, it was almost as if they were trying to pretend that it worked. When you take your faith and you put it in an object, you're taking your faith off Jesus. No wonder all these, rosary beads in my house isn't working, the sage isn't working, all these other things aren't working. It's Jesus and Him alone that's going to give you freedom.
Even a young man, I was hired to ease his fears about death. He was 17 and he had a brain tumor. And I went there, and obviously looking back now as a born-again believer in Jesus Christ, if I only could have, if I only could have shared the gospel. I'm a demon communicator there to help this boy, and he died. It was within the next couple of weeks after that. And I was heartbroken.
It might seem like fun to contact these spirits and everything, but these spirits are not who they say they are. They're not our dead loved ones. And the more you're interested in it, you're opening a door up to things happening in your own home. Pretty much everybody I knew that was in the paranormal also experienced paranormal activity. But there was one thing that was also with all of it that gave it away, was the fact that it was hostile to the name of Jesus.
You got people who believe in the aliens. You got people who believe the ghost stories. You got people who believe, in witchcraft or New Age. But everything's the same. Everyone feels special. I felt special. Each one of them feels special. It's the same playbook for all of it.
And then with the background of the pride, which is no surprise when you're serving the devil. That's his characteristic. That's who he is. There's going to be something that's going to make you feel like you're doing good. Look at you. You're privy to the secret information. People are coming to you for this.
Through the entire experience, I'm always, the end of the world's coming. I'm part of saving it. I'm special. I'm gonna play a pivotal role in, helping the humanity. No, really, those thoughts were in my head for sure the whole time, and very strong.
That because your information and your control and everything else is coming from liars, demons are liars. Yeah, they'll give you accurate information. They have to dangle the proverbial carrot in front of your face to get you to come back. So the medium and the psychic, the tarot cards, yeah, they'll tell you some things that sound about right, that already happened. But here's the thing. They don't know the future. Demons do not know the future. They are not omniscient. So now you're placing your faith and trust in demons, in liars, but they've got you right where they want you because they told you a few things, and you're going to have to keep going back and back and back because you will never be fulfilled by the lie.
We live in a world right now that is owned and ruled by Satan. He's been allowed to have it. So if you believe in the world, then you're following the father of lies. He is a liar. He's a deceiver. He's a roaring lion out to seek and destroy you and devour you, your family, your wife, and everything you know, and to take your soul. That's it.
You are giving consent to demons to afflict you when you enter into divination, when you enter into the occult, when you enter into sin.
We've got all these things that people were telling us that was happening in their homes with the light anomalies, the sleep paralysis, all these other things. And it was the same things that people that have experiences with the alien phenomena were actually the same thing people with the ghost phenomena and the spirit guide phenomena. This is all much bigger. This is one huge deception.
If I had a minute to warn people about the occult, about who demons are, I would have to say what you see isn't what you get. So what you're looking at with your human eye is not all that's going on around us. There is an actual battle going on, and witchcraft is directly serving demons. Demons are liars, demons are evil, demons hate God, and they hate mankind. That means they hate you, and they want to do anything that they can to destroy you. And one of those ways is through mediumship, psychic communication, Ouija boards, all tools of divination. That is run and operated and authored by the devil. And you have to make a decision who you're going to serve. The liar, the cheater, the manipulator, the thief, the murderer, or the way, the truth, and the life. I know I want truth. I know I want everlasting life. What about you?
How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught